No, I don't know what it's doing.
One step at just one week over.
I think it's about time that I stop being scared to tell my stories.
You have to think about like at a short moment's notice, you need to be able to accelerate forward, retreat, pivot.
Okay.
Welcome to walking. Okay. Most people are walking in very inefficient ways.
Okay. Maybe I just needed to get that out. This is day 1 of boxing training with T. Mark my words, I will be dangerous.
Too dangerous.
Just don't know how to walk.
All right, man. I believe in you. You understand what I'm asking?
Yeah.
All right.
So while this is very much about me and my God stories, this is also certainly the story about how me and Brandon Blue became the dream team. Okay, here we are. Honestly, my body is crashing. My CNS is so tired right now. I just did the first of another 12 series of intentional body work. I started my first 12 series last year, the very same week that I stepped into my new life, my new creative life, and left corporate. And I told myself if I had the opportunity to ever do this again, if I had the opportunity to ever do another 12 series, I promised myself that I would document and share my journey and my stories. So here we are.
Yes.
Still hesitating.
Yeah, it's okay. Let the foot flop. Allow that forward motion to kind of drive you into it. Fall, 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 fall. Because we watched our parents and that's what we learned, right? And they didn't get taught. Nobody got taught how to walk.
Yeah.
Like, we're just learning how to do something much more efficiently. And it's taxing for the brain, but you're doing great. Okay.
Do it. I can do it.
Yes.
Do it.
Okay, we're gonna go adductor. So we are in Meg chapter 2. So we did your first series.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of change,
Yeah.
especially in the adductors and our thighs. Definitely we know that there's still internal rotation. That's partially just how your bones like to situate, right? And that's not the devil. Like we all have the way that our bones sit due to genetics, lots of other reasons. We want to know, can they function in both ranges? Can they also come out of internal rotation into external rotation? So we'll be doing some more movement assessment for that.
We started with superficial frontline, and basically today's session was walking 101, and some of the themes that came up were surrender, difficulty surrendering in different patterns of my body, difficulty allowing my body to move in the way that it's supposed to move and wanting to like brace for control. The first time we did a 12 series, it was as if my body didn't know how to work in cohesion together. And now my body is a little bit more settled, and I'm certainly more settled in my new life as a creative and far away from corporate, over a year now. My body still remembers what it learned from the first 12 series and how to work together. So now we're working on propulsion. How do I take what I've learned and remind my body how to work together to propel me more forward with power into my life? So I'm proud of myself for keeping my promise here and getting on cam and talking. I only have a short amount of time to maybe close my eyes for a quick cat nap before I have to get ready for Drake night tonight. A lot of people are hitting me up about last minute sections and tables, so I have to respond to them very quickly before I can hopefully lay my head down and get ready for Drake night tonight. It's gonna be a long night. Brandon Blue is a machine, and he's gonna be going for 6 hours, and I will be there to hold down the fort. Good morning. It is the morning after Drake night. I was out and up until probably 3:30, and the thing is that my circadian rhythm, my body clock, is so strong lately that doesn't matter what time I sleep, it wants to get up at 6 or 7 anyway. So we're sporting a cute 3.5 hour nap right now, but I feel okay. Typically, what I've observed of myself is that the first night of very suboptimal sleep, I can usually function pretty well the next day. But if that happens 2 nights in a row, I'm just... So anyway, right now I just loaded up on some liposomal NAD from Symbiotica to help to get my cells online a little bit more today. And I'm on the way to go to Plano to pick up my friend's dog, Lila, because I'm babysitting her, puppy sitting. She's not a puppy anymore. She looks like a puppy, but I'm dog sitting, puppy sitting her for the weekend. So I'm very excited to have some little company, a little shadow. And then me and T are gonna meet up because we're gonna have our first boxing session. He's gonna teach me some boxing. I've wanted to learn boxing for maybe since high school. And I just had never either self-initiated or had the resources around me. I'd taken a couple boxing classes at studios, but I don't consider that to be the same as actually learning strategically how to fight and how to box. And I've always felt like I know that I am a powerful human being, and I want my personal abilities to be able to reflect as such. Anyway, I'm saying a lot. So I'm excited. I'm excited to go get little Lila, and I'm excited to have my first boxing session. Maybe I'll record some of that too, because I want to see my progression, my progress, my befores, my afters. I'm allowing myself to be a first draft all over again. Not an illness. I'm like the Mr. Miyagi. I can't do it because we
Right.
like,
Yeah, rear step, rear step, rear step. Too close. There you go. You're like using the force of your step and your jab forward to press off the ground and go rearward. Both feet. This is a movement. Continue. Jump. There you go. Push off with both feet. Snap your jab. Yep. Yep. Because you don't have to move far back and forth. 3, 2, 1, begin. Like that. Not too much bounce with the back leg. Just rearward movement. 1, rest. Hell yeah.
oh God. My calves.
You got 2 more of those.
But
And then you're done. It's easy peasy doing squeezy.
all right, so I'm just gonna go off the riff, but a long time ago, since I was a little girl, there was this one point that I remember going to God with my heart in my hands, and I said, this is all that I am, and this is all that I have, and I want you to do what you will with it. I want you to fill my life with God stories, and I want those God stories to be permission giving for people to believe in your love, that your love is accessible to them, and that your love is for them. All right, now this story is here for those who love a good backstory. I think this is definitely necessary for context. So I was born and raised in California, Southern California, and I was a healthcare consultant for a good solid 8+ years. And I knew that that was not going to be my end all be all. But when you say that and you know that, you think that it's just somewhere in the distant horizon, and you never think about when that's actually going to happen. But around the pandemic, my job went fully remote. And at that time, I stopped and I reflected, and I thought, if I wanted to know who I was outside the world that I have always known, then this was the time to move. So if not now, then when? I visited multiple cities that I had interest in, but when I landed in Dallas, for whatever reason, call it God, I was like, this is it, this is the one. So I moved here in the summer of 2022. And I would say that when you, again, move outside of the world that you've always known, it certainly accelerates your growth. It became very apparent to me that who I had grown into was growing out of the life and the identity and the job that I had built in California. So this desire to show up in my life as a creator was growing stronger and stronger. And so in 2024, I started praying this prayer dang near every day. And that prayer went something to the effect of, thank you, God/universe, for catapulting. Yes, I used the word catapult. Thank you for catapulting me from my current existence as an epic analyst into my life of creativity. And thank you that I get to get paid to exist and do things that feel like breathing. And thank you that I'm deeply well known and loved in my community. And I said some other things, but essentially that was the gist of the prayer. And I prayed that, like I said, every day, dang near every day in 2024. And I began to feel, when you pray a prayer like that, the universe will orchestrate life to align with what you have asked for. So a lot of tension started growing for me and in my job. It required me to show up as this version of myself that to me had already died. And so by the end of November 2024, I had been invited to this fashion event from an acquaintance that I had met here in Dallas. And so me and one of my girlfriends was gonna go together at the time, but last minute she was not able to go. And so I was faced with this decision of, do I not go because she can't go, or do I put on my big girl panties and decide to go for myself? And so I had this existential moment though, that was this creative community that is in with Dallas. I felt like this was something that I was supposed to be a part of. This community is something that I'm supposed to be a part of, but I'm on the outside looking in. So I decided to go, and I was late and the after party was happening upstairs. This was at a time when Hideaway was still center here in Bishop Arts. So I go upstairs and the DJ is spinning. And lo and behold, it was Brandon Blue. Didn't know who he was at the time. But when I heard him, I thought, this guy's incredible. I whipped out my phone and I texted my friend and I said, I just found our new favorite DJ. He's so much better than insert who favorite DJ was at that point in time. But I said that, and we met, me and Brandon, nothing happened. No fireworks, no discussion, no nothing. I went home that night and I had a dream. I was in a warehouse and the MC was wrapping up an event that had just happened and was thanking everybody for coming out and giving shout outs to all the people who helped put on the event, gave a shout out to me. And he said, next time we're gonna bring a little of California to Dallas. Meg's gonna put it on. And I said, Meg's gonna do what? And everyone started laughing because I was deeply known and loved in the community of the people that was there. And then I realized at that point, I had this half awakening moment in the dream. I said, oh my gosh, I am in my new creative life, but I don't know who I am or what I do or how I got here. I turned to the girl next to me who happened to, in the dream, who happened to be my childhood best friend. And I said, I'm having a 13 going on 30 moment. I have just leaped into my life and I don't know who I am. I don't know what I do. Can you fill me in on the details? And then I woke up. I thought, wow, journaled, tucked that dream in my back pocket, and I continued on with my life. So like I said, that was November of 2024. And I was still continuing to pray that prayer nearly every day. And tensions continued to grow in my life to the point where winter became like a small season of depression that lasted throughout winter, so essentially February of 2025. And I got to this simple reflective point where I thought, the idea of being in this job and in this existence for even one more month, I thought I simply cannot do that. And it was a quiet yet impactful epiphany that I had, that this stable Taurus woman who wants nothing but security is just at this point where I'm willing to snip the thread and let it all go. And so in my mind, I had this contingency plan because I was a consultant. And so I thought, why don't I end the contract with this hospital that I've been with for, like I said, near 8+ years, and ask for a smaller contract with a different hospital. Responsibilities will be different. Some of my mental load will hopefully be relieved. So this was the plan in my mind when I gave my 3 weeks notice. As I was speaking the words to my supervisor, this was still the plan in my brain. But the moment that I finished that conversation, it's as if I turned to God and God looked at me and said, that's not what you prayed for. And I just looked at him and he goes, that's not what you prayed for. Is this what you really want? And I looked at him in silence and I just said, no. And he goes, okay, well, you have this contingency plan for a smaller contract. You also have this interview with another healthcare startup going on. Is that what you really want? And I went, no. And he goes, okay, well then tell me what you want. Say the prayer that you've been praying. And I just stood there silently. And he goes, say the prayer. Say the prayer that you've been praying. Tell me what you want. Nothing. No words from me. And he goes, that's right. You don't think I'm gonna do it. You don't think I'm gonna do it. You don't think I'm gonna do it. And I just stared. And he goes, oh, you don't think that I want to do it. You don't think I want to do it. And I'm gonna take a moment to say, I think that this is a simple yet profound redefinition of faith. I don't think anyone who has faith in God or the universe, or if you believe in a higher power, I don't believe that we struggle in believing God can. I believe we struggle in believing God wants to for you. And it was a moment to reflect that my faith was being tested. And when I turned to God and he said, I know that you want plans A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But if you really want this life with me, in this life that you've been praying for, I'm gonna ask you to step out on water with me. Instead of choosing to pick up the phone every day and asking for another contract, I'm gonna ask you simply to choose me every single day and see what I do, see how quickly I move. And I said, okay. And that vision, that conversation was over. Timeline check. This was the end of February. And I had given my 3 weeks notice. I had this vision, this conversation with God. And end of February, God said, just choose me. See how quickly I move, see what I do. Days later, I was at Double D's for Jeremy's birthday celebration. And at this point, like I said, I'd met Brandon back in November, and me and my friends had been following Brandon around the city to support him. And Brandon and I had grown a decent rapport. We would see each other, we'd dab it up, handshake, whatever you want to call it. We would have a small conversation. But when we got to Double D's for Jeremy's birthday, me and my friend were chatting with him, and we're just gassing up Brandon at this point. And he is talking about how he has these great ideas that he wants to bring to fruition. And he had recently asked the IG community about local Dallas florists, and he's like, now my DMs are flooded with florists, and I don't have time to look at them all. And he's ranting on and on, all of this to say, he's bubbling up, and he goes, I basically need a manager. And at that point, it was as if time slowed, and I was asking myself, what is this feeling that I'm feeling? Why do I feel called to respond? And I looked at him and I said, are you serious? And he looked at me and he said, yeah, should we talk? And it was so strange, because even if I had just written out that dialogue and you looked at it and you're reading it in a book, it could have been such a quick passing conversation. I need a manager. Oh, for real? I am for real. I really do. We could have kept going on with that. But it was as if both of us knew that something was happening. He says, no, I'm for real. I think we should meet. So he pulls out his phone, we exchange numbers, we set a date and time to meet that in the next few days, that following Sunday. And I went home, I was driving home from Double D's in silence, and I thought, what in the world did I potentially just get myself into? Why, what business do I have? I know nothing about the music industry or being a talent manager. What did I potentially just get myself into? And God goes, do you remember the dream that I gave you? And I said, what do you mean? What do you talk about? He said, do you remember the dream that I gave you the night that you met Brandon? I said, what of it? He said, in the dream, you had a heavy hand in putting on that event. And Brandon just finished saying that he wants to throw Brandon Blue events in the city of Dallas. And if you partner with him, you will also have a heavy hand in putting on those events. And suddenly I had this wave of peace and confirmation come over me, because I knew that God was about to show up in my life in very big and very loud ways. And this was just the beginning. So that is the initial story about how me and Brandon Blue came to be business partners. And that is certainly not the end or the last bits of that magical story, but I feel like this is a good place to stop. There are so many things that I wish that I could say right now, so many more things that I wish that I could say, so many more things that I want to add to sharing the stories, but this is the point of creating a YouTube channel, being able to have a space to share my stories in long format context and practice not being apologetic for them. So if you're here, I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. It means so much. And if you want to like and subscribe and comment, it will mean genuinely the world to me, because for a long time it has been on my heart to use my voice and share my stories, and for whatever reason it's taken this long for me to get the courage to do so, but now I'm here. And I want to say, if you've gotten this far, that I genuinely appreciate you and have so much love for every human on this planet, and especially for the ones who come to watch. All right, thanks.